Good morning, everybody. David Shapiro here. Yeah, Extropic launched their first thermodynamic computer, a TSU, a thermal sampling unit, and there are plenty of breakdowns and deep dives out there. So I'm not going to give you the full lowdown. Anastasian Tech has a great probabilistic computing video from about 9 to 11 months ago at time of recording. But what I will do is give you a little bit of intuition about how this thing works. And it's been a long time since I've done a tutorial. So for those of you who are not OG listeners, my channel actually started with tutorials, GPT-3 tutorials. Now, of course, back then, it was not as good at coding. So now I just use ChatGPT Pro for everything, and it's much better at coding. So this tutorial is going to be more about just kind of giving you an intuition as to what thermodynamic computing is and what it does, and also why I'm so excited about it. So without further ado, let me just show you how this thing works. Where is it? Come here. There we go. Okay, so here we go. So here's a little handy dandy script that I wrote, or AKA that ChatGPT wrote. So Sudoku. Now, while this is running, let me just tell you a little bit about it. Okay, so we generate a Sudoku puzzle, and then it's like, okay, you could solve this if you wanted to. There is, you can do it with pencil and paper. This is an old human thing. So then we say, all right, let's have the TSU solve it. Now, I do need to clarify, I'm using a TSU simulator, not a real TSU. So I don't actually have a piece of the hardware, but you can see in one iteration, it solved the problem. And so what you do is you say, okay, here's the initial clues. So we got 5, 1, 2, 8, 3. So 5, 1, 2, 8, 3, those are still there. 7, 1, 8, 4. So 7, 1, 8, and 4 still there, so on and so forth. So we clamped the clues, and then the TSU backfilled in the rest in one shot. Now, here's the thing, is that for a human to do this, you need a lot of backtracking, and you need a lot of guess and check, and a bunch of other things. But the TSU literally does it in one step by clamping the known values and then programming in the constraints, which of course the constraints of Sudoku is that you can have no duplicates on a row. So you see here 7, 5, 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 6, 4, there's no duplicates. And you also can't have duplicates on columns, and you also can't have duplicates inside a square. Now, we manually checked to make sure that the solution was correct programmatically with Python, but the solution that it proposed was entirely done with the virtual TSU. And it does it in one shot. So this is programmatically, this is a fundamentally new approach to solving Sudoku. And it's closer to what you might think of as quantum computing. But interestingly, the way that thermodynamic computing and quantum computing work is almost the polar opposite. So quantum computing tries to eliminate all noise, all heat, and then it uses quantum tunneling and superposition and all that kind of fun stuff. This actually just uses the noise. So the very, very simplified version is that a thermal sampling unit uses the natural noise from leaky transistors as part of the calculation mechanism. Now, I could go into a lot more depth about it. I do have a description here on the repo. So if you want to figure it out, it's just daveshap/thermoputer. This is a joke that's circulating on Twitter. So it's a little bit of an inside joke, but I've got the longer description here as to give you an intuition of thermodynamic computing, and then a description of the Sudoku solver, as well as a description of the 8 queens solver. So let me show you the 8 queens solver real quick as well to further build up your intuition. So let's do 8 queens. And while this is running, I'm going to give you a little bit of background. So the idea is that if you take 8 queens on a chessboard and you find an arrangement that makes it so that none of the queens can attack each other. Now, this is harder than it sounds. And this is a very complex problem. And there are 92 unique solutions. This has been proven mathematically for more than a century now. So this is a really good test. Now, again, rather than guess and check or using a shotgun method or a particle filter or something like that, by baking in the rules and the constraints, the TSU is able to basically one-shot it. Now you see that it does pull a few samples, so like 2 samples, 4 samples, 5 samples, 6 samples, so it's almost one-shotting it. But what we're doing here is we're seeing how long does it take the TSU, the virtual TSU, to rediscover all 92 unique solutions. So here you see we've got duplicates coming up every now and then. Overall, it's taken between 450 and like 630 iterations to discover all of them, because it'll be getting duplicates. Now, the reason that this is interesting is because now obviously it's a virtual TSU, so I don't have a physical one to test, but every solution to the 8 queens problem has the same energy level, which is 0. So the idea here is you're trying to get to energy level 0, and energy level 0 is the best solution, or the lowest energy possible for a given problem. Not all problems are going to have an energy of 0, but in the case of Sudoku and the 8 queens problem, a valid solution has an energy of 0. So with 92 solutions, they all have a value of 0. So the reason I did this is I wanted to see, would it actually discover all 92 solutions? And the answer is yes. But it takes about 4, 5, 6 times the number of total iterations, because you don't have a way of preemptively filtering out the ones that you've already got. Maybe you could, but you'd have to reprogram the TSU every single time. Now, you might say, okay, what's unique about this? Like Sudoku, this methodology does not require sequential guess and check. This is a fundamentally different approach to anneal. That's the term of what it does, is once you program in all the starting conditions and all the constraints into the TSU, it anneals the problem and a solution just kind of pops out. Now that's obviously a gross, vast oversimplification as to the physics and the math going on, but what we're banking on is we're allowing the fundamental laws of thermodynamics and physics to solve the problem for us. So it's not quite an analog computer. You might have seen there was some studies and interesting experiments, over the last couple of years, where people built like acoustic and optical neural networks. So that's just, as sound travels through a device, a metamaterial, or as light travels through a series of lenses and other metamaterials, it does calculation and it does processing. What you're seeing here, what the TSU will actually do is halfway between that, so analog computers, and a GPU. So a GPU, what you're doing with a GPU is you're simulating noise. So one of the reason that this is difficult, so here's kind of the primary metaphor or analogy. So gradient descent is what everything is all about with artificial intelligence. One way to visualize gradient descent is imagine that you're on a landscape that is 10 miles by 10 miles, and you're trying to find the lowest altitude point in that 100 square miles. Now, you don't have satellite, you don't have drones, you don't have an airplane. It's at night, and the only tool you have is the sensation under your feet of the gradient around you and an altimeter. So you know your current altitude, and you know what the terrain immediately under your feet feels like. But now you have to find the lowest point, the lowest energy point, or the lowest altitude point in that 100 square miles. This is a metaphor for gradient descent. And what happens with thermodynamic computing is that you're able to test all possible solutions at once, simultaneously, which allows you to immediately just discover, like, what's the lowest gradient point. Now, the way that you could describe that is like, okay, imagine that you have 1 million bouncy balls that you drop in that 100 square miles, and also you can turn on an earthquake so that the bouncy balls all bounce around, and as they're bouncing around, they're all naturally finding the lowest energy points, and then once it settles, you're like, okay, these bouncy balls collected at the lowest altitude point. We're done. That is about how much more efficient this process can be than classical computing. So rather than using sequential iterative algorithms, you're using a fundamentally different approach. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because, I'm trying to avoid hype, but what we're looking at is a very, very fundamentally different approach to computing. It's as different from classical computing as things like quantum computing are. But the difference is a team of 15 did this in 2 years, whereas quantum computing, people have poured billions of dollars into it over decades, and they still haven't really come up with something that is commercially viable. Now, that's not to say that Extropic's first generation TSU has commercial utility. It's certainly not scalable yet, but the fact that they have built something that runs at room temperature that you can put on your desk and use today speaks volumes. Now, you might say, okay, why is this so exciting? Why, what's the big deal? So what this allows you to do mathematically can save you a tremendous amount of time and energy on specific kinds of problems. Now, obviously, reduplicating the 8 queens problem and solving Sudoku, that's one thing. And I picked these because they're very intuitive, because it's something that you can do with your brain. You can do it on pencil and paper, or you can get your own chessboard and you get 8 pawns and treat them like queens, and you can try this yourself to see how hard it is. But you see that right now we've already discovered 86 out of 92. Oh, just 80, got to 87. And it's just churning away. Now, obviously, this is banking on my CPU to approximate the effects of the TSU. So this would probably happen almost instantaneously if I had a real TSU. Now, okay, so practically speaking, one of the immediate use cases is protein folding. So right now, the best way we have to do protein folding is stuff like AlphaFold, which uses neural networks that have been trained to predict the optimal structure of proteins based on the inputs. However, because that's an optimization problem, what you're really looking for is the lowest energy state, so the fewest number of electronic collisions in a protein shape. And this kind of technology could do that pretty much instantaneously just by baking in those constraints. So when you program in the starting conditions and all the requirements, shaping a protein is not too entirely fundamentally dissimilar from shaping a board that has various constraints. Because queens, in this case, you have an anti-affinity between queens, which it's like, okay, these queens cannot touch each other. Guess what? When you're looking at how complex molecules shape each other, the same kind of thing happens because of the electrical properties and the valences and shells in the various atoms that are constituents, or elements that are constituents of that protein. So, in practice, this could dramatically accelerate things like medical research. Now, to me, the most exciting possibility is that what this could do for fusion. So on the one hand, we're talking about thermodynamic computing that can be used to do things like maybe accelerate artificial intelligence or do direct inference without actually even using a full neural network, or in this case, solving the 8 queens problem in Sudoku. However, another problem that is very similar to all of these other problems is shaping the magnetic containment fields for nuclear fusion. Because the fusion plasma is very energetic and you've got very powerful magnets, and right now it is impossible to really calculate exactly how those shapes or how those fields need to be shaped in order to create fusion. However, my hypothesis, and testing this idea with, of course, the help of various AI models, is that a TSU is almost the optimal kind of computer when you say, okay, the goal is to constrict the plasma to the point that it fuses. Great, but it needs to update in real time, and one of the kinds of things that can update fast enough is electricity itself, electrons moving across a very small chip that are doing calculation not with matrices, not by abstracting it several times with GPUs or TPUs or CPUs, but by directly doing calculations on the chip itself in real time, could be fast enough to nail the magnetic constriction of nuclear fusion. And to take that one step further, you might be able to do it in a form factor that is not even a separate TSU chip, but you could probably build thermodynamic computing directly into the walls of the tokamak so that the device itself is reacting in real time to heat and magnetism and radiation to constrict the plasma. Now, of course, this is purely hypothetical, and if you're not following, I don't blame you. But the idea is that this unlocks a fundamentally new approach. And mark my words, what we are seeing with thermodynamic computing with the TSU, what we just saw was the GPT-2 moment of a new computing paradigm. So GPT-2, for those who might not remember, is the precursor to GPT-3 and ChatGPT, which, of course, generative AI is all the rage right now. Now, GPT-2 was the first version that was like, okay, here's an SDK, basically. Here's a version of this that you can play with at home. And, I used it to do a couple projects. I did a punctuation fixer. I did a sentence unscrambler. I did a couple things training GPT-2 back in the day. This technology that you're looking at here, the TSU technology, is just as big in the long run. I have been in technology for a while. Back in 2007, when I first got my hands on virtualization, I said, this is very obviously the way of the future. Guess what? Over the subsequent almost 2 decades, virtualization not only is the way of the future, it is the default for cloud and data centers. The next thing that happened in 2009, I said deep learning is very obviously the path to artificial general intelligence. Here we are, almost 2 decades later, that turned out to be true. When Google released their universal sentence encoder, which was a direct precursor to GPTs, I said, we are very close to artificial general intelligence. Turns out that was very prescient as well. And then, of course, when GPT-2 and GPT-3 came out, I said, this is it. This is the way of the future. This is the next big thing. That's been right. So when I tell you that TSUs, that this paradigm of computing, this is the next big thing, I am not being hyperbolic. This is based on my 2 decades in technology at the cutting edge of these things. So pay close attention to what this does. And I was hoping that this would finish by now. We're at almost 700 iterations. So this is the slowest one, and it keeps doing duplicates. But either way, you get the idea. So thanks for listening to the end, and I'll check you guys later.